Hello, all, and welcome to Are You Hooked?, where we discuss how a TV show captivates an audience. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
We are fascinated by what draws people into a story and want to understand the pieces that get us hooked on a show. In this episode, we will be discussing the closing scene of The Bear Season 1, Episode 1. This is your spoiler alert, so we are talking about the ending scene. So obviously, we'll be discussing some of the plot points that happen in this first episode of The Bear. So this is your spoiler. If you haven't watched the episode yet, my gosh, the show is amazing. So we definitely recommend it, but we will dive in fully into this episode. Okay, Sarah, what happens in this ending scene?
In this ending scene, a crowd has formed outside of the restaurant. But you know what? They can't handle a crowd of that size. And Richie is letting Carmy know that and orders Carmy to go back into the back and make some spaghetti. So then we watch Carmy go into the back, start making spaghetti. And, things happen.
Things happen, yes. If you want to watch this scene, we've included the timestamps for where we've scoped the scene to in the show notes. You can find The Bear available to stream on Hulu. So definitely watch the scene if you want to have a refresher before you listen to the rest of our conversation. All right, so Sarah, let's dive in. Does this ending scene of The Bear, Season 1, Episode 1, make you want to watch the next episode of the show?
Oh my gosh, yes. I was so ready. My finger could not press the next episode button quick enough. Like, let's go. I need more right now. And I think similar to what I loved so much about the opening scene is the music. I think for me, and The Bear does this so well, it's a show of contrasts, and the way that it plays with music, even in this ending scene, is so smart. And the way that it sometimes will be silent to really emphasize what's going on and help you immerse in what's actually happening in the scene. And then the music will come in to help you really feel what the character is feeling and almost getting into their internal world. And so that moment when Carmy is cooking and it's quiet and there's a moment of peace for once in this show. And then he decides to hell with it, and he throws away that can of spaghetti, and then Pearl Jam comes in so loud. I was ready. I was like, yes, I need more of this world. This is a perfect off-ramp for me to just get right back onto the freeway that is The Bear. Let's go. So yeah, I was ready to watch and listen to another episode just right away. So what about you? Based on this ending scene, are you hooked? Are you going to watch the next episode?
Yes, absolutely. I think what stands out to me the most about this ending scene and the way that it creates so much momentum for the next episode is that we've seen so much from each of these characters over the course of this one episode. And so, especially in thinking about this from the lens of are you hooked and what makes you invested in a show and want to click on the next episode, especially for the first episode of a season or in a brand new show, I was just thinking about how the best cliffhangers are the ones where you've just fallen in love with the character so much that you just need to know what's going to happen next with them. And in contrast to other shows that leave you on a very clear cliffhanger that is an open question mark or something ominous and whatnot, or something that there's a cutaway from the moment of reveal that feels a little bit maybe like a surface level cliffhanger. I was just feeling like this whole episode has done so much legwork to efficiently allow us to connect so deeply with the characters. And these final moments in this episode are so indicative of the kind of where each of these characters are at, that was the best momentum for me for clicking on the next episode, is just the investment in who these people are and feeling like there's so much potential for them. There's so much more of their journey that they're about to go on. That was what was most exciting. For the most part, most of the characters are not in a good space, not in a good headspace, they're not in a good spot. Everything's frustrating, everything's going wrong. We've got some new people that have joined the team, but they are so new and they are kind of at the bottom of the mountain. And so that feeling of like, oh, I'm just so excited to see where these characters and these people will grow into and what's next in the story. That really did me in. So I found that with this ending scene, it wasn't the cognitive cliffhanger or like momentum to click on the next episode that I sometimes will get a lot with the first episode of television shows. It's just the investment of the characters that got me invested and wanted more of this world and more of their journeys.
Yeah, that's so good. And I love that this ending clip also gives us a little bit of hope too.
Mhm.
You know, this whole episode, Carmy is just trying to survive. He's just trying to get through the day. He's trying to figure out how to turn this restaurant around and is just failing. Like, this is stressful and chaotic, and it would be easy to like fall into despair trying to watch this guy just struggle. But I love that, you know, we've seen him even struggling with the employees too. But I love that the little bit that we get between him and Marcus. I love Marcus. He is my most favorite in the show. And so of course he is the little bit of hope in this scene. That moment of, oh, you know what you're doing. Oh, I can learn something from you. Okay. And then he calls him chef. And I love that because I think that little bit, that little interaction is enough hope for us to go, okay, things are starting to turn around. Things are hard. Things are very, very difficult. They're struggling, but there is just a little tiny kernel of hope amidst the chaos. And I think that also helps give that momentum to watch another episode and keeps that balance so that we're not just, you know, drug underwater with Carmy as he is just struggling and flailing.
Yeah, yeah. And the other interesting like theme of this ending scene that Marcus interaction really highlights is that there's so much talent that Carmy has. And I think getting to see how gifted he is and how him being now in this new place, in this new restaurant, what will he do with this? You know, seeing Richie eat the sandwich that Carmy made and just like kind of be in awe and have to yield and give his respect to this dude that's just been getting under his skin. But he's just like, man, that guy knows how to cook and knows how to make a sandwich. I think it was fascinating to see that the way this episode ends with these two back-to-back scenes that highlight just how gifted Carmy is. And what will he do with that in this new place? What will they build together is kind of the big question. There's a tension now. There's this incredibly talented person, but he's new. He doesn't know how to do this. And so now what? I think that was notable as well, is how much the emphasis on Carmy's talent and this gifting that he has. And the show kind of begs the question, what's he going to do with it now? Is he going to be frustrated? Is he going to let all of that defeat him? Or is he going to really bring something special to this place? And that's the kind of like, I guess, like the overarching, like underlying cognitive question I think that the ending scene also suggests and allows us to ponder.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's another like empathy building moment as well. Like when you come into a situation and it's kind of a mess and you have a vision for like how it can be changed. And sometimes it's hard to get people to adopt that vision, but you know that it can work. Like, I don't know, at least for me, that was really something that I could empathize with Carmy with. And seeing those little moments where Richie gets like a fraction of what Carmy can see, and Marcus gets a little piece of it too, and you see the potential for some people to kind of be early adopters and maybe will come around to Carmy and his vision and what he thinks that the beef can become. It's just it's so interesting to see, and I also love the journey that just Richie goes on in this one scene too, because the scene opens with Richie just laying into Carmy and just yelling at him and, shunning him to the kitchen to cook for all these people and yelling at him not to mess with the system. And then by the end, he's like, oh man, no, this is actually really good. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that Richie even, goes on a little journey in these like 2 minutes of this scene.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you brought up the Richie bit because I think it's so neat to see the like where he starts and the journey that he goes on over the course of the 3 seasons. But there's also an aspect where we can see and understand how Richie's also kind of right too in that whole conversation because Carmi's out here
Mhm.
being like, look how great this is. All these people want what we're giving them. And Richie's like, we cannot feed them. Yes, you've drum up the excitement, but have you also thought about the rest of what needs to happen in order to provide for the demand that you've created? And I think he says the line, which was really notable to me, stick to what works. And while that's not Richie definitely digs his heels in, as we'll see over the course of the show. Sometimes a little bit too much and is resistant to change. But there is an aspect of Carmy coming in and needing to spend the time to understand the system, the environment, the clientele, and put in those reps. You can't come in and just hit reset and make your grand plan come to fruition. Have you spent the time to understand what has made this great so far? Keep those things, respect those things, and then let's evolve. But they're kind of representative of those two polar opposite approaches. One's like very much resistant to change, almost too focused on what's existed, but also really deeply understand the environments at play in what has existed. And then you got somebody that's a little too excited and wants to move a little too fast and trying to bring revolutionary change when maybe somewhere in the middle there's a more evolved approach that can really allow for the right pacing of bringing about change. And so I thought it was neat how in that conversation between the two of them, they kind of both are right and they're kind of both wrong at the same time. And that's the tension, is them figuring out how to hear each other enough to respect each other and then come to somewhere in the middle, which is perhaps the most balanced and most gentle and correct approach for bringing about new things. And they're both right and they're both necessary.
That's a great, great point. And it's also such a great introduction to how the bear treats its characters throughout the seasons, because you'll see a lot of that too, where two characters will be opposed to one another and both will be a little right and a little wrong. And I think that that's so brilliant of the show that none of the crew, no one is a villain, but they're all just these really human, really flawed characters that are just interacting with each other. And obviously this entire show, especially this episode, is against the backdrop of Mikey's death. And that has obviously had relational implications, emotional implications, absolutely devastating for this crew. But it also has very real financial implications, and the part that Mikey played in the community too. So I love that this one episode we see so much of that already at play right from the beginning. And then as the episodes continue, then we go deeper into different facets of that and see how different characters process through things differently. But we see all of those really human tendencies even in this short little clip between, his interaction with Richie and his interaction with Marcus. Those quick little conversations show so much about who these characters are. And then we just go on a journey of peeling back those layers and then just discovering more about each of them bit by bit. But we learned so much in this one episode.
So much. Yeah, even in just these few minutes of this ending scene, it's one scene we learned so much too, which is so cool and so neat. Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you pointed out about the conflicts that happen in this show, because they totally mirror real conflicts between complex human beings in the real world too, which is most of the time there is no clear right and wrong. It's there's aspects that I feel, and sometimes I'm a little right, sometimes you're a little right, and we're probably both wrong in how we handled it, and how we fueled conflict sometimes. So I think that is so human of the show to showcase. And sometimes the ways that people that are right too, that are quote unquote right on the show, handle it in the wrong way as well. And sometimes people that are wrong really know how to build for reconciliation instead of kind of detaching, disengaging, and isolating. So yeah, there's a whole, this show is so wise, I think, is like the way that I would describe it. It understands humans and conflicts and desires and hopes and dreams all so deeply, and has so specifically and intentionally brought it to the big screen in this really interesting way. So yeah, this show is incredible. We can't rave about it enough. And if you are listening to this, hopefully you've seen episode 1 at least, and that you also are hooked on this show as well. Well, this is our discussion of The Bear's closing scene of its first episode. You can find it available, as we mentioned, on Hulu. Thank you for listening to this episode of Are You Hooked?, where we discuss how a TV show captivates an audience. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune into your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know your thoughts about The Bear's ending scene of its first episode. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at TVNSPod, or email us at tvnspod@gmail.com. And check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on TV and Us and our other podcast, Movies and Us. We will be back soon with some more content. We're going to be covering a brand new show, going on a whole journey. These past 2 episodes might be a little hint about what's coming up next, right around the corner, and we're very, very excited about it. So in the meantime, we hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again with y'all very soon.